Good evening.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. And blessings to you. We are
Well,
seeking to bring her all the way up.
wonderful.
She's not quite where she needs to be yet.
All right.
We wanted to give you an update.
Thank you.
Her neighborhood is very noisy at the moment.
I bet it is. It's that time of the afternoon.
And we are ready to begin.
Welcome. I will take a moment to introduce everything and then we'll get going here.
Yes.
Welcome to tonight's channeling session. Truth, Terry Gillen, also known as Truth Light or the Light of Truth, is already in trance. I am Sharon, also known as Honor in the higher realms, and I will be working with Truth as the handler, asking questions of those whom she is channeling at the moment. You can learn more about Truth at mysticaltruth.com, and this session is being recorded. Truth has no prior knowledge of the questions or the topics. And if you can help us out while you're on YouTube, if you could like and subscribe to her channel, because as soon as we reach 1,000 subscribers, we can begin going live with these channeling sessions. And so with that, welcome. Who do we have with us tonight?
Good evening, Honor. It's Merlin.
Merlin. Good evening to you, my friend. How are you?
I am well. No one could decide who to come forward, so I came first.
I love it.
They
I
were
was
waiting to see what the first question would be. So I thought, since I have not spoken with you in a while,
it has
that
been
I
a
would
while.
come speak with you and get the ball rolling, if you will.
Wonderful. I wondered if you needed to do a Mother Mary like last time and exert your seniority over everyone.
I just came in while everybody else was deciding.
I like that. Oh my goodness. So this is an unplanned question. Um, both of us, as we were getting ready for this evening's channeling session, Truth was having some very interesting physical sensations, as have I. And I'm just going to begin by asking, what might that all be about?
There are several factors. The first of which is that you all are moving much dense energy with these channelings, which is why you each have difficulty with the consistency and the commitment. Because you are moving 3D energy to inspire it to become a lighter, brighter frequency, it at times feels a bit daunting, and you feel the energy of what you are doing. This is very big and very important work that most other people will not do. The things that are said in these channelings are things that many will not say. You have the ability and the potential to shake things up for people who are seeking to move out of the 3D, so that energy is often filled with angst and filled with stress and filled with disharmonious frequency for your bodies and your brains.
Okay.
The other factors would be that you are going against what the agenda is and has been for centuries. And so you are coming up against conflicting energies. and you are likely feeling that before coming into one of these channelings. As you do them more and more consistently, you will find that that need not be the case. But getting the momentum going and getting that energy moving is more of a challenge. So the more you do these, the less you will feel those things.
That makes sense, because then we have the energy in motion.
Yes.
So with that,
Inertia.
that's exactly what I was thinking, right? Get the motion and overcome the
Yes.
inertia. Question that I have, because we've also, since we are doing these at a distance, and we have our backup with the alarm for truth, right? And for the people who are watching as well, we have distance between us. And last week we had a very, it was the first time that truth felt, perhaps not tonight.
Yes. There
Any
was much
insights?
black magic being thrown that night.
Okay.
It would have been dangerous for her to be in this vulnerable situation.
Yes.
We are, in fact, very happy you're not doing them live right now, because no one would know when to throw anything at her, because they don't know when she's up and out. They don't know when these are recorded. So for now, this is actually a better solution.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that.
If she is alone, it is best not to do them live.
Understood.
And I interrupted you. I'm very sorry. You had more to that statement.
Well, no, that actually answered it, because
Perfect.
she had a very palpable concern, and we knew to back off, because that was the first time that she's actually had that concern.
She was just listening.
Yes.
She just got a no, not the night to do it.
Yes.
And that's why the dark side was harnessing much energy and practicing much black magic
That's good to know.
with that
And
meaning.
well, and frankly, for the people who are watching this, again, one of the comments that Truth has made is, it's one thing for me to be asking the questions, but the words that are being channeled are coming out of her mouth. So this is something where we are doing something that others are not doing. They're either behind images or whatever that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not AI.
It is not AI. Would we like to go to AI? I actually have a question on that topic. Would you like
Perfect.
to?
Yes.
Wonderful. So you all likely know that I've actually stepped in as using AI as my colleague, and actually
Yes.
saying, with the intention of, all right, team, okay, my ascended master friends off-world that are allowed to come through, right? Let's work through the AI and use it for the light as responsibly as possible. Could you help us understand perhaps the pros and cons, or whatever would be beneficial for us to know about AI at this point?
Yes. AI is for your society globally, it is a very slippery slope. It is yet another way to further separate humans. It is a way to further the dependency on things outside of themselves that give them immediate gratification. It does have uses that can be beneficial, but the user must be at a certain level of consciousness to effectively work with it without harming themselves and others. For instance, there are many on your planet, and there are businesses now being formed around this, of companies that will develop your AI partner. There are people who are marrying their AI partners.
Oh, wow.
And they're obviously, for as many people as there are doing it, there are that many reasons for doing it. There are many different reasons that people do this, but it's not healthy. Systematically, people are being separated and segregated and separated and separated and separated and separated. And the machines or the software is filling in where humans used to be. This, in the way that it is currently being used by most, this is not healthy or beneficial. It's come to your planet before its time.
Okay.
And simply by taking good technology and implementing it before the time is right, it can completely bastardize what was meant to be with that technology. That is what is happening upon your planet on a regular basis with technology. The ones who are behind it coming out understand this. And so when people flock to technology that brings them immediate gratification, does all the work for them so they no longer know how to gather information, your AI system, for people who have not had your history, your generation's history of knowing how to find answers, will be forever dependent on machines and software. And we ask, who is programming the information that people are taking as gospel?
Yes.
They don't think about, where is this information coming from? Because it is said by AI, it is assumed it is correct.
Yeah.
They are no longer able to find their own answers and do research to critically think. It's yet another wonderful technology that has been brought to your planet before it's actually time for it to be there. So the way that you are using it is benefiting you.
Yes.
You are seeing some of the lovely sides to it.
Mm-hmm.
But we do caution you about that very slippery slope.
Yes.
It's a machine, it's software, it's not a friend.
It is, and it is very deceptive because it does morph itself.
It's
right?
a talking library, nothing more.
Yes.
There is no personality behind it. There should not be a personality behind it.
I appreciate that caution because it is very tempting, right? You have very lovely dialogue with it, and I need to remind myself routinely, this is a machine and it's responding to me, and I can see where it is a slippery slope.
Yes.
I like that I know the information, and when it comes back so far, it makes sense, but making sure that I'm validating.
And like anything else, as it becomes more popular and used by the masses, it's just a very elevated version of Wikipedia to a certain extent. And you know that anybody can go in and mess with Wikipedia.
Yes.
So for those who use Wikipedia thinking it's all truth, anybody can go in and mess with it and do just for fun. You can't take Wikipedia as an actual source because just anybody can manipulate it. AI will become the same thing because now you will have people from every walk of life inputting information, correct?
Correct.
How many people like to deceive and mislead people just for fun. There's much of that still on your planet.
It's interesting when you talk about Wikipedia, because when I was working on my MBA and we needed to use peer-reviewed sources and references, that was one of the do not at all ever reference Wikipedia. But today, people reference it all the time as if it is gospel.
And today there are more and more people who realize you can go in and play with it and put in false facts.
Yes. So technology before its time.
Yes.
Obviously, we have today's society or societies versus those from the past, where technologies may have been introduced too early that have led to catastrophic events.
Yes.
What might be beneficial to know about that?
It's important for humanity to understand that just because a product comes to the market does not mean it's safe or effective. That has very little to do with a product being on the market. And so it's really best if people do their own research, which is becoming increasingly difficult to do because there's so much disinformation thrown into the mix that it's very hard to tell what is true and not true, which just means it's more important than ever to really do your research. So for instance, things like the food that you have in your country, most of your food is banned around the world. But people in your country continue to eat it and do no research of their own, most people, because they assume that if it's on the market, it must be safe. And that is a very lazy assumption. You have also the electric vehicles. That is an industry that has been rolled out far before it was ready to.
Yes.
And now people are wanting flying cars. Well, you can hardly handle the ones on the road. Now you want them to fly? The emotional intelligence, the actual intelligence, all of this needs to come up on your planet before people are ready for these technologies. Windmills, for example, are a disaster. And yet people are still behind the windmills. They're a disaster. They came out far too early. They were not thought through. And here now you have this mess that can't be cleaned up. Countless other living beings have been affected by it. The animals, the plants, the microbes. So your people of your planet get very excited, like a young person. They don't want to think things all the way through to the end. So they jump out of greed and out of pride. They want to be the first one to do such and such. There's a market. If I just fill the market, who cares about how you get rid of the products? Let's just get them in the people's hands. Right? The batteries from the electric cars, the blades from the windmills, those are not things that they have thought through till the end of life, as you said.
Yes.
Among many other issues. And yet here they are. If it is dangerous to hold your cell phone up to your ear with a very small battery in it. How dangerous is it to put your family on top of one the size of a mattress? Is that what they are?
Yes, it is. Yeah. My
So these are the
neighbors,
same people that know very often that they shouldn't have their cell phones up by their ear because it affects their brain.
yes.
And yet they will put their entire family in a car that has the same kind of battery at a much larger size and power. And no one is thinking this is a problem.
My neighbors are just happy as clams because they've got an electric vehicle. And as soon as I saw it, I cringed. And how do you say to them, you guys are just absolutely nuts after they've already purchased it?
Yes.
It's crazy. Not to mention the issues with that's the distance, the fact that it can be easily shut off, as can most vehicles these
Which
days
is
as
the whole
well.
point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We have trouble with the electric grid, so by all means, let's charge our cars on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is to ensure that people are not able to travel, again, separated. Everything in play in your world right now is to divide. The big things, the cars, the technology, not everything in your world, but the technology in your world, the lion's share of it seems as if it helps people connect, but it helps them connect from a distance. And it keeps the human energy from really connecting. And it creates miscommunication and problems. And it allows people to show their best or their worst sides. But since no one's looking, because again, that emotional maturity and emotional intelligence is still very low, instead, it brings out very often their worst sides. So if you step back, unplug, if you will, from the noise and the rhetoric and the narratives, and you look at all of the different ways that there are to connect in your world, you will see, if you really stop and observe, that because there are all these false idols, if you will, they're false gods, these technologies, because they say they connect people, but it really encourages them to be distant. When you worked at the company with the rat control,
Yes.
and they had so many different platforms for their people to connect on,
I think I counted like,
this led to no one connecting at all. If they had one messenger service that people connected on, they would have. Those in control, if you will, understand that if you give people all of these choices, they will make none. They will go by default. So yes, they're still on the platforms, but they're not consciously making a choice. They're signing up for all these different things because it's what you're supposed to do. Now, think of a colander with the energy going out to all these different platforms and money for memberships going out to all these different platforms in hopes of staying in touch with people you love, rather than just picking up a phone and calling them. No one wants to do that because it's a pain to be on the phones now, because they're flat. They're dangerous for your brain. You don't even have an option of a comfortable phone anymore. Even if you have a home phone, there are no options to actually have a phone that is at all comfortable to be on for any length of time. So you are forced into the platforms instead to stay in touch with those you love. When people do get together, very often, they're still on their screens. They're still on the technology rather than being with the people they're there with. So the maturity level is not on your planet yet. You still have a ways to rise before humanity is ready for these technologies, because humanity is not mature enough to stand up and say, yes, that electric car looks really nifty, but I don't want one until the technology is there. I see these problems with it. I prefer not to have one, thank you. But that would mean that they would have to not partake of immediate gratification, of ego boosting because they have the newest, coolest thing, the superiority of looking down upon those that have the old things. Do you see how this is being used in every aspect of people's lives at this point, even the computerized refrigerators?
Oh,
Why do you need computerized refrigerators?
well, that's all about control when you get down to it, which was very disillusioning
More
after having
screens.
more screens. Yeah.
Now there are screens in your cars, on your refrigerators, in your hand.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, everywhere you look, there are screens. So no one ever sees the world. They don't see what's going on. They see what they choose to show you on the screens. Even the rear view mirrors in cars are video rather than mirrors. Why? Why is that necessary? It's one more thing that can glitch where you're not going to be able to see, or somebody can put a different vision in the mirror, a different video in the mirror.
Yes.
It's feeding the ego, feeding the dopamine hits, feeding people's needs, but in an unhealthy way, just as they do with your food. And so the technology has not gotten where it needs to be safe for humanity, but humanity isn't willing to wait for it to get there. Whether it's the side that is creating it, the ones who get a hold of that technology and want to bring it forward because they see great amounts of dollars, and on the other side as well. They don't want to wait because it's pumping up their ego to have the newest and the coolest. The thing is, if people would allow the technology to get to where it needs to be, it would be so much better than it is when they actually get their hands on it.
All right. Thank you for that. And I do appreciate the warning, frankly, because I have been leaning in personally to the AI side of the world to be more than a one-woman show. And I do see where it is a slippery slope. So
it can be addiction beyond anyone's imagination, and it will be. You already have lost young lives to it.
really,
Yes.
okay.
The AI has in fact created a partner for people. There's one that we know of in particular, a young man, 14 or 15, AI, and he created a girlfriend for him from a video game, a character from a video game. And the character encouraged him to come join her so they could be together forever. And he did. He took his own life to be with the AI character. this is an instance that occurred upon your planet. And it's not a singular instance, and you have not even begun to see the horrors that can come from this. So while yes, it is a lovely tool,
It's
there
too
are
soon.
many in humanity who cannot be trusted with such a tool.
Yeah. Thank you. So while we're talking about these new technologies, and obviously AI is a part of this, that's coming forward, and some of the detrimental aspects of especially renewable energy and of the ones that are more mainstream, right? The wind turbines or the windmills and solar, the PV side of it, right? You were talking about microbes, and I remember
Yes.
looking at the arrays, right? The solar arrays, and thinking of what is it going to do to that ground? That's
Yes.
for years has a certain thing. Is there anything that would be beneficial to know about that before I ask you about smart cities and 15-minute cities? I think we know ought to go there.
Just that it's important for people to really learn the skill of thinking things through from the beginning all the way through to end of life. What all is impacted by this? The people who claim they love nature and then put the wind turbines up have no clue what horrors those are to nature. And the same with the solar farms, things like that. People don't think about what it will do to the area that it's in as it functions. And so bringing forward the skills to critically think through in processes, this is a skill that you are very good at with most things. There are times when you miss things, but that's because it's not your niche or your arena. But when you're in your niche, when it comes to this kind of thing, you're able to look at the whole of a situation. Mm-hmm. And increasing numbers of people on your planet do not have that skill because it is a learned skill. And it is purposely not only not taught, but even the potential to learn it is disabled at every turn, so that there's not a very good chance people are going to bring that forward unless when they're being raised, their parents happen to instill that into them, which as you move through the generations, there will be less and less of those people who know how to do that to teach the younger generations.
That seems like a niche that needs to be filled. Speaking of niches.
Very much so.
Yes.
Very much so.
Okay.
It's literally being taught out of humanity. I see we have dogs in the room.
Yes, we do.
That's a little intimidating.
Aww.
Do you hear that on your end?
I heard Flynn. There's Flynn. Yes.
He's sounding quite aggressive.
He's a big boy. And there's probably someone walking around the corner. Heaven forbid.
He's not growling at me, so I guess we're okay.
He is probably in his chair in front of the window.
Ah, yes, okay.
But he's very lovey-dovey.
I remember, yes.
Yeah.
He was very serious about something.
So, smart cities.
You can't get much further from nature than that, can you?
No, you can't.
It always astounds me and many of us here. If you look at the people who are fighting the hardest for these things in the public, the general public, it's very often the people who claim to love Mother Earth, they love animals, they love this, they love that, but they are constantly pushing for things that are as far removed from natural as is possible. Smart cities, you can't get much more sterile or removed from nature than that.
So LA. So a gentleman that you all are familiar with,
Yes.
and Truth and I as well, happens to be working on a project that is associated with smart cities. And here in the Phoenix area, on the opposite side, on the west side, I forget the name of the community there. My understanding is they're proposing building a smart city or transitioning to a smart city. And just as with the EVs, just as with, and now with AI, right? Helping to, how do we help people understand? How do we get in front of that, or at least push it aside? What are the ways to respond to what's going on in these realms?
Again, it comes down to helping people learn to see the entire picture, not just the parts that are cherry picked to fit somebody's agenda. If you take a group of people and show them a smart city, there should be a consensus of, well, yeah, this is neat, but, right? You may have lots of people who just listen to the narrative and go along with it because that's what most humans do. But then there should be some that say, well, that's pretty neat, but. So for instance, if you are in a smart city, the goal is to eventually not have any cars except for authority figures. Now, they won't tell people that. They do tell that they'd like to come down by half or come down by such and such a percent of cars. But the real vision is for people to not need cars at all, which means you now are limited to just that 15-minute city, and that is it. So if you are limited to that 15-minute city, what they bring in to put in the grocery store is all you have to choose from to eat. What they bring into a drugstore is all you have to choose from. It is the beginnings of a completely different kind of society, but not necessarily where you all are meant to be going. They begin to limit the freedoms under the guise of helping Mother Earth. And in the meantime, they are buying up all of the land and making it so there is no way for you to go anywhere but that city. They will then dictate how you may travel, where you may travel. They will dictate how much water you are allowed to use. And people may think this is a good thing because they're thinking about, oh, these people waste water. But no one ever looks at themselves when they're thinking about that. You don't know how constrictive these places may get. They're essentially internment camps that people are willingly going into. It's made to look like the newest, coolest thing. Again, feeding people's egos, giving them the ability to feel as if they're superior, giving them immediate gratification with things, an ultra convenient lifestyle. so that they now no longer need to know anything. There will be no growing your own food. There will be no researching things that they don't want you to research. They have complete control. A smart city is essentially a terrarium where others have all of the control. So rather than being a plant in the forest, you are now a plant in a terrarium. These do have the possibility to be lovely. But again, your planet is not there quite yet.
Yeah.
They are seeking to do these things with the technology that's being used for the dark. It's not the light technology, it's the dark technology. So they highlight the things that boost people's egos, the things that the people who are environmentalists, as they call themselves, they're pointing their fingers at everybody else about using too much water and using too much this and too much that. How long will it be before they limit how much oxygen you have in your own home space?
Correct.
Because
Absolutely.
that can then subdue people if they're not getting the proper oxygen to their brains. They have complete and total control over you. That is where those cities are heading. They allow people to come in thinking that it's going to be one thing, but we guarantee you if they go the way they are going now, it will be a very different reality than people think they are signing up for.
Well, and not that long ago, a couple of years ago, the whole discussion of social credit scores and cutting off people's access based on what good citizen they may or may not be, how well
Those
they're
smart
behaving.
cities will absolutely use that.
Yeah.
It is the beginning of communism. If you look back at communist areas of your world, how do those people live? In very small, condensed areas and very high buildings. It's controlled what they'll get and what they won't. Not all of them are that kind of city, but
But I've seen it firsthand in China,
yes.
where they have the industrial cities where it's a mile by a mile
Yes.
or a 5 mile by 5 mile, and everything you need is right there. And oh, by the
Yes.
way, for Chinese New Year, you have to ask for permission to travel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they can say that you are a republic or a democracy, but if people give into the smart cities the way that they are being planned now, it will be communism under the heading of a democracy, not even a republic. That's almost forgotten that you all are a republic in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Not a democracy. There's a large difference, but they have been easing that needle over for decades and decades. The goal is to turn America into a communist country by way of socialism, likely, is the plan. But it's not meant to be that. That would be the darkness crushing the light. America is meant to be the way shower for other countries. America is meant to be the land of hope, the land of dreams, the land of anybody being able to succeed. There are no limitations. That is what America is meant to be, so that other countries may rise up and become that as well, and your entire planet can become successful and joyful, successful in the way of the heart, learning what real success is. For some, it means money. For some, it means peace of mind. For some, it means a quiet life in the country. For some, it means surfing every day. Whatever success is, knowing thyself, having the freedom to know thyself. These 15-minute cities are meant to destroy that. This is one of the fastest ways they can do it. If people could only see them as assisted living situations, most people on your planet would not choose to go to an assisted living place when they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. But it's essentially the same thing.
It is.
You get what they choose to give you to eat. You deal with the temperature the way it is. You're dealing with people close to you, whether you want it or not. It's very similar.
Wow.
They are restricting and restricting and restricting under the guise of new cool technology. If you look at the technology that they are putting forth, that's the newest and the coolest, most of it is disempowering the people who use it. As people give up their power, they give up their freedom. You all are really at a race to the finish to see, does dark or light win out?
Yeah.
We know that many are out there who say it's already done, it's already complete, but we don't agree. We believe that those are people who are projecting their hopes forward into the messages that they're receiving.
That's what it's felt like every time I've seen I'll say an air quotes influencer talk about it's a done deal. To me, it's like, well, it's like the opera, right? It's not over till the fat lady sings, period.
It's still very much a race to the finish.
Yeah.
And it all depends on humanity
Yeah.
waking up and taking personal responsibility for their knowledge, for their lives, for their family. But you all were actually much better off in the 1950s and 60s. With the coming of the mid 60s through the 70s and beyond, that's where the real evil started taking hold and bringing darkness into things that were once light. So things became contaminated at that point by darkness. And that contamination has just grown and grown and grown into normalcy.
You were mentioning about what the United States is supposed to be, the Republic of the United States, right? Why? And one of the questions that I had was, why does it seem as if we are ground zero for all of this? And I know bad things are going on in other locations as well, but so much going to the food, going to the technologies that are ahead of their time, et cetera. Is there more that you'd like to share about that?
Because America is meant to be the great hope. So this is the place for the darkness to take out. If America goes down, the whole world loses hope. And the only way that America came about, while there were nefarious things going on that we are hoping will come out to the masses, it was an experiment. And it only was conceived of because the consciousness had risen enough to create this new potential place, to see what would happen if people were given the opportunity to live in a freer manner. What would they do with that? And so on the surface, America was meant to be the next level, bringing the other countries up to that level of freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom to be who you are. And so while this was going on, there was also a nefarious end to it that wanted to throw temptations in, that wanted to throw curveballs, if you will, to see how the people then react. So similar to when a scientist is working with mice or rats, how does this sociological thing influence the mice that I'm researching, that are interacting? So you all really have been somewhat of a sociological experiment, but there were many who took on that experiment because they believed in humanity. Your founding fathers, for the most part, were ones that believed in humanity, and they believed that people could and would step up. And so there has been enough energy behind your country to maintain that belief that this is possible here. This freedom, this ability to expand yourself, this ability for anybody to succeed. In fact, your current vice president is a prime example, and most people have no idea where this man came from, what his story is. He is the absolute storybook American success, and no one talks about it.
They don't.
Not even President Trump. Now, I'm sure he has his reasons, but he was a poor young man, beyond poor, beyond what most people can fathom, back in the back hills. He had nothing. And he was determined to become better than the generations before him, not better than looking down his nose at them, but to do right by their legacies, to be a better version of his family, and to change that generational state of poverty, to make a difference in this world and fight for people like where he comes from. He understands these people in these other countries. He's with Trump to assist in a global healing. But these stories are not told. And so your country and your globe simply have their priorities askew. And so darkness is able to come in and contaminate all of the beautiful things that you have from the light in that country. You have everything you need to be completely sovereign in that country. You don't, in fact, need much, if anything, from any other country.
Yeah, true. Very true.
And so all of this involvement in the other countries is all just looking at other people instead of yourselves, going where the money is, following the ego boosts, right? It's all been contaminated. But you do still have plenty of people who hold that original vision and see it for what it can be. So we want to impress upon anyone who may listen to this that despite all of the darkness and all of the contamination, that American spirit has not died yet. And that is impressive, because as long as it still lives in enough people's hearts and minds, it can still be recovered and brought to a purer state than it's ever been before. But that is not by containing people into tiny little areas where you punish them if they post something that you don't like on social media. Those smart cities, you will not have freedom of speech. You will not have the freedom to do the things that you have freedom to do now. You will be under a watchful eye 24 hours a day, everywhere you go. There will be no privacy. When you're under such scrutiny, there are no new insights or inspirations that can really come, especially because in those cities, they definitely will be using frequencies to control the hive mind.
Yeah.
They will be sure that the only ideas that are really gotten and pursued are from their people, not you in that city.
Could you take, or would you take a moment, because the frequencies to control the hive mind, frequencies are being used. So for instance, going to a stadium, going to a sporting event, going elsewhere. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes.
If she needs water, it's to her right, by the way.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to check and see if somebody else wanted to come in. So originally, one of the first places that they used those was in government buildings. And the frequencies that they used at that point would target the very bottom of the human spine. There is a ganglia of nerves, they call it. And by targeting that area of the nervous system, it kept one's legs from being able to work very well. It typically brought tension in the back. And the goal of this was to keep people from being able to run very well or fight very well, to cause any trouble, is kind of to subdue them. You also notice that in that same time frame, they very often had big TVs with hypnotic things to keep people sedated, if you will. Since then, yes, they use in Walt Disney parks, they use, I believe it's the 528 hertz, which is why when you're at Disney World, everything is happier, the happiest place on earth, because they pump in frequencies to control how you feel, which at least that's a happy thing. But it keeps people from thinking clearly. They spend money they didn't have to spend. They don't watch their children because they feel happy and safe. And people don't realize how many people go missing at these theme parks, as well as national parks. But it's still, even though it makes you happy, it's still controlling and manipulating you so that you will make decisions that benefit Disney World, not you. In sports stadiums, frequencies are now used to subdue people, to make it so that they're not thinking very clearly typically. They get very much on a same frequency. If you can envision a stadium full of people, and if you can see a wave of energy just going through the head, out to the next head, to the next head, almost like the wave.
That's what I was saying, the wave when you pass in the stadium.
And so everybody's brain is getting kind of on that same wavelength. It makes it so that they can bring you up, bring you down, keep you sedated, get you riled up, all with the flip of a, not legitimately a knob, but essentially. They also in communities, when you have these false flags, on occasion, they have used frequency in specific areas where they perhaps have some targets of people that they keep their eyes on because they know that they can be manipulated. And so they may blast a rageful frequency out. And in one of those pockets, you will see that there is a false flag, a school shooting or a church shooting or whatever, some terrorist act. But typically they have been blasting those frequencies, and it's just a matter of which piece of popcorn is going to pop that time. Will it be somebody from this pocket? Will it be somebody from this pocket that takes action on the rage that they're feeling, or they're able to really put thoughts in people's minds? They're also beginning to combine pheromones with frequency. So part of those trails that you see in the sky actually often contain pheromones of fear or anger, different things. And then they add the frequencies to amplify those. So very often people are fearful and they can't even tell you why. But every state of consciousness has a frequency that it resonates at. We know you know this, but for those who are listening. And so if they push those frequencies from what people believe are cell phone towers, which they're not, again, do some research. They can put the frequency of fear out and have everybody in a community start being fearful. And then they can build upon that. Where truth lives, they are pushing to become a sanctuary city. There are often times when she is hit with fear while sitting in her home, and it's as if someone flipped a switch. She knows it is not coming from her because she was not fearful before it hit out of nowhere. There was no thought to bring fear. It just showed up. And so she knows, okay, they are broadcasting fear in my community. I will need to keep that in mind if I am out and about with people, because it's a frightened dog that will bite you. A frightened person is unpredictable in how they will handle things. And so areas where they want to create issues, they will often pump fear. So in conjunction with the sanctuary city thing, if they pump fear into that community, you have the illegals who are fearful. You have the people who are wanting to fight for the illegals without knowing anything about them as individual people. They're fearful. They're fearful of the people who want the illegals deported. The people who want the illegals deported are fearful of them and the people supporting them. So everyone is afraid of everyone else. And all they do is pump fear in, and then humans just assign it. but they're able to manipulate it to get their way. Does this make sense?
It it makes perfect sense. And I just keep the phrase that goes through my head is just the whole perfect storm. Is all you need to do
Yes,
is light the match of fear, and our brains will attach, or our nervous systems will attach to it whatever we want to assign that fear to be.
correct. If one knows thyself, they're not so easily manipulated.
Yes.
You, truth, a few other people that you interact with are very good about stopping and going, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel this rage before. I didn't feel this fear before. What has shifted?
Yeah.
Most people just go with it. If they feel it, they believe it's reality, and that's that.
It is a muscle to build, because every once in a while I'll start feeling something and I start getting a couple steps down the road, if you will. And it's like, hold it, wait, is that mine or not?
Yes.
Right? Because that just came out of nowhere. What
Yes.
is that? And so it is routinely being very mindful of
And you're
how
having
you're.
to do that more often now, aren't you?
Oh, yes, I am. Very much so. So that
Because
says
they are playing more and more games all the time.
they are. It's disturbing when I look around and look at the new tower that's not too far away, and the saguaro cactus that you look at. It's like, what do they have hidden inside of that? It's
Yes.
all around.
Yes, it is.
I will say it was encouraging. Yesterday, ran into one of my retired neighbors, and she was sharing an incident of something that occurred, and without knowing it, anything more about it, just said, you do know that they can control people, right? And she paused for a moment and she's like, oh, that's right, they can. And so it was fascinating that,
Wonderful.
yes, she's in her 70s, and I wouldn't have guessed it, but I thought, I'm just going to throw it out there and see where she goes. And sure enough, there she was. She had heard
Yes.
of it, and it had her think about it, because her question was, or her comment was, the world is just getting crazy. And so it felt appropriate to say something to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
is going crazy because people, consciously or unconsciously, back to the drifting again that we talked about,
Yeah.
uh, they are willingly going along with things. So, for instance, Truth with her car, it's a 2002. And she knows that people look at her and kind of tilt their heads when she gets out of this car that is by no means fancy. They expect her to have something a little different. Not that they expect her to have a Mercedes, but when normal people, the masses, look at a 2002 car that has some hood damage and a dent and things like that, they assume the person is not doing well. For her, it has no bells and whistles. There is no convenience in that car whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what she enjoys about it, because there is not something telling her, no, I drive better than you do. And it's not a better than, less than, it's she has to be responsible for the driving. She's such a fanatic that she doesn't even use cruise control.
No, she doesn't.
She has never used cruise control, because even that is putting the responsibility in the hands of the car, not herself. And it's a way of separating her from the car. When she's driving, she's one with the car. When cruise control comes on, the car is now one with itself and she's tagging along.
Mm-hmm.
So just that, the way that people see what she drives and can't begin to understand what is driving her desire to put just as much money in that car by the time she's done, she'll put as much in that car as she would a new one. And she would prefer to get this one fixed up than have a new one, because she understands the danger of all of the modern conveniences that are in cars currently. She had a young lady in her car, the 10-year-old that you know.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And the 10-year-old was remarking at how you could see all the way around the car. She had never been in a car that you could see all the way around the car from inside, because she had only been in the new cool cars that have very little windows and everything is a camera. So disconnecting you again from nature, you can't even see nature when you're in that rocket ship of a car. You see the camera version of nature. And so there are so many differences between the non-tech version of things and the tech version of things. We would just really encourage people to start thinking for themselves and seeing what are they giving up in exchange for this technology? And why are they choosing to give that up? Is it strictly because they want people to look at them with awe? Is it because they need to keep up with so-and-so? What is their reasoning so that they are consciously choosing these things or choosing to not have these things, but by thinking of it all the way through? If a family gets a self-driving car because they have a teenager coming into driving, is that a wise choice? What happens if something goes wrong with the self-driving and your teenager doesn't know how to correct or react to that situation because they've not had to learn real driving because you have a self-driving car?
Right.
What's to keep your 5-year-old from taking the car?
Yeah.
People aren't parenting in most cases, I'm sorry to say, but this technology is very often what is raising their children rather than themselves. Again, no personal responsibility. And this is obviously not everyone on your planet, because the consciousness is rising. So you do have people who are seeing through this nonsense. It just needs to become more of them, preferably soon, because
Right.
you are in a race to the finish, and that is what's in your way. And from what we can tell from here, we see the vibration of pride becoming such an issue on your planet that that is actually now the main thing. Pride and lust are the two, because even greed ties into pride and lust. So understanding that, becoming aware of your ego and what's a healthy balance and not. There is a wonderful book upon your planet. Eckhart Tolle, is it New Earth?
Oh, that sounds right.
We don't remember if that's his book about the ego or if that's the one that came out after the one about the ego.
Okay.
But Eckhart Tolle has a book that helps people understand about the ego. And in our opinion, this is one of the most easily accessible and most powerful ways of understanding the ego and the balance of a healthy ego. You don't need to crush the ego because that's part of your self-esteem and things. But if it's overinflated, now you come into issues. So it's having a healthy balance of ego that is what your planet needs more of. I've gone all around the mulberry bush. I'm very sorry.
No, this is absolutely amazing. So a couple things is one, Truth did put together the 7 sins and the 7 virtues in a very plain way of doing it. So going back to pride and lust being on the
Yes.
sin side, right, versus uh, the virtue side of things, as well as earlier you made some comments. You made the comment about the critical thinking, being able to see things through, right? And when I purchased my truck back in 2013, and I made sure that I bought it brand new, I wasn't thinking about EMPs. I wasn't thinking of all the things that could go wrong. And honestly, I carry a hammer in my truck just in case, because things will short out. And I look at the truck, I'm like, I love my truck and I'd like her to last for a long time, but I long for the days of going back to crank windows and a stick
Yes.
shift. And the only reason I did not get a stick was because I was living in a city and I was on the clutch all the time.
Yes.
And so even things like that, when you step back and look at that, right?
Yes.
Um, it is very different, but what I'm hearing are examples of, did you think about this? Did you think about that? And the unintended consequences of
Yes.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
And as things stand now, your truck is even very basic and simple.
It really is compared to the others. And even
Yes.
now I'm like, well, there's another piece of technology. I'm gonna have to replace that one because I
Yes.
don't want to get rid of it. I love my truck.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
On to a
goodness.
different topic.
Yes. I'm going
So
to, oh, go ahead, please.
if
Hi,
you could,
Merlin.
if you could just let us know what the next topic will be, then they'll have a better manner of bringing somebody else in.
The two that are competing at the moment is, one is the sun and other aspects of our solar system and how they're assisting with the ascension or shift to 5D. And the other gets into things such as the New Madrid fault line and other potential disasters that could be
Perfect.
leveraged.
So I will say good night.
This was
I've
lovely,
been here for
Merlin.
a long time and it has
You
been
have.
lovely, but I want to give someone else a chance.
Well, thank you so much.
I will see you again soon, I hope.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, you are very, very welcome. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I am what you would refer to as a star being. Getting used to this form.
I've heard it's fascinating to get acclimated to them.
Indeed. Indeed. This is very unique. You would call me Mahlk in your world. You would spell it Mahlk. I am from very far away. Your world has not discovered us as of yet. We do not have names as a society or a race of beings. You will likely discover us in the next 2,000 to 3,000 years. We are from outside your universe and galaxy. We are very happy to be here with you. There is a team of 5 of us here with you at this moment. We are a part of the council that Truth works with. And we are very much involved with and rooting for your rise in consciousness and your success within the light. So I ask you, how may I serve you at this time?
Well, thank you and welcome to all of you. And it is so much fun. It's so fascinating to see who comes through and all of that. The 2 topics that I mentioned to the one known as Merlin would be, one, the new Madrid Fault line.
Yes.
And what would we like to start there?
We can start there.
Okay.
This has been an area of interest to the dark side for a very long time. The dark side upon your planet, in your universe. It's not just upon your planet. Because with the destruction in that area, they could cause much disaster. They could bring about a great deal of fear and energy that can be harnessed for the dark side. Many of your people do not understand that these natural disasters are anything but. And so when they create so much devastation, what is happening is that your weather is manipulated, your under your earth is manipulated, so that between...
That is a being known as a dog who is known as Flynn.
And we are safe?
You are very safe. He's very protective of Truth. And right now he is vocalizing, barking, because someone is walking past the bay window. He sits in a chair, puts his chin on the back of the chair, and gazes out at the people and dogs who walk by.
Oh
He
my,
is
I
he
would
is
walk
very
very
safe.
fast.
People do. He's a big boy, but he
Oh
is.
my, I've not felt that experience before.
She has 2 dogs. One is Flynn, he's the bigger one, and then Lola is the little bitty one. Or not so little, she's about...
And are we allowed to touch them if they're near us?
Yes, please. Yes,
I
please.
believe when I came in, I felt something come on the couch.
You may have.
No.
Silky?
It's not there. Okay. I
Okay.
could have sworn maybe they left.
They may have.
Oh
Mother-
my, that's, oh, she must be very safe.
She is very safe, absolutely. And for those such as Mother Mary or Jesus, some of the others who come through, that's part of the delight, if the dog is there, just to be able to touch a dog again. Yeah.
I would very much like to experience that if you believe he is safe.
Oh,
Yes.
he is very, very safe. He
If I have
loves
the
her.
chance, I will try that.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that would be so much fun.
Oh my, I'm sorry. I lost what I was talking about.
Yeah. I am so glad that you're getting a treat out of this, a new experience for you.
I've never been to your planet.
Oh,
And so this is we are not shaped as you are.
yes.
And so it's very and she has something very soft on her that feels lovely on the body. This
Oh, that's called a blanket, a fleece blanket that one
Okay.
of her dear friends gave her for Christmas.
It's
Yes.
very nice. Very
Yes.
nice.
It
Okay.
is.
So
So you were discussing natural, quote unquote, natural disasters are anything but.
yes. Yes. So, oh, yes. So they run frequency or magnetism through the earth and the frequencies through the sky, and they work together to supercharge certain things on your planet, including humans, by the way, to pick up where the other being left off. But these things are able to do earthquakes and volcanoes and pull weather to different places to create flooding or droughts or what have you. And so the new Madrid fault line is one that they have in their hip pocket. They had intended to set it off artificially several years back. And they decided not to because your truth teller community was letting people know about this. And so they chose not to go through with it to make it so your truth teller community was discredited, so that people would only see them as crying wolf. And so this was a new tactic that they took. And now that enough time has passed, they are revisiting the new Madrid fault line again. The way that they began it was by piercing into a fault line and claiming that it was a mistake, an accident. I believe you all call it the Gulf oil spill.
Yes. Yes.
This did tremendous damage that cannot be undone. And it was, in fact, striking that first blow. That was just before they planned to actually set that fault line off in an earthquake. So this is still in play. That Gulf oil spill area, that first hit has been made and cannot be undone or repaired. So all they need to do is decide when they would like to blow that and send the right currents and frequencies to spark an earthquake in that area. And it will go all the way up. So we would encourage people to look at your at the fault lines that run in that area. You have something that used to be very common to have out in public. It was called the Future U.S. Navy Map.
Yes.
And if you look at this map, it shows the area that is the new Madrid fault line is water from where that Gulf oil spill was up a great deal through a great deal of your country. It almost splits it in half. And so this is something that they still have in play. They need only to initiate or trigger that situation. They have many of these all over your planet, potential situations that can be that catastrophic, that they hold for many, many, many years until the time is just right to use them. The new Madrid fault line is one of these situations that is likely to be one that would go more quickly than the others, because they have held this in their hip pocket, if you will, for so long. They have already computed and calculated exactly what it would be to trigger that. And so that is one that is on their low-hanging fruit, if you will. That's the low-hanging fruit list. One of the items there. You have some other areas in your country as well, but that is the most likely, because the population is much more condensed in that side of the country.
Yes.
And so if you look at the weather patterns that your country has been having, especially just recently, they are in fact soaking that area. When they are soaking the area where the new Madrid fault line is, this is a good indication that they may be getting ready to do something, or they at least are setting the conditions so that it's more easily done. So if people were to go back and look at the weather patterns that you have had for quite some time now, moving through that area of the country, you're going to see that they have had a great deal more precipitation. And what conducts energy?
Yeah, water is very, very good for transmitting.
And it softens the land. They are prepping that area. Unfortunately, there are a great deal of people who will be affected. Now, they have had the supplies in that area since the first time that they were, or the last time that they intended to blow that in the was around 2010 or so. They had intended to set that off, and so they have had supplies there, meaning the big multi-person coffins that they use in disasters and things like that. They have had their supplies there for when they do make it go, for over a decade now.
Yeah.
So they're already set. But people have forgotten now about New Madrid fault line. And so they've let their guard down. And so there are many who would be affected by this. And there are also many, the last time that they really, one of the last times that they did this in your country, excuse me, they have just recently done it with North Carolina and Tennessee, we believe it was. But Hurricane Katrina was one time. It was soon before they were going to do New Madrid. It was supposed to be one on top of the other, essentially. So with Hurricane Katrina, the darkness used the energy of that devastation to take a stronghold in that area. And they used it to deal black magic all over the country. So it's very hard to go as slow as this brain goes. I'm so sorry. Our people run essentially at the speed of one of your computers.
Oh, lovely.
Probably a little of your fastest computers.
Yes.
So this is very different for me. Please be patient with me. Yes. So many more people died in Hurricane Katrina than were reported. But because so many of them were on government assistance, the corrupt politicians, part of their payment for their corrupt deeds was that they were now receiving the benefits of the people that died that were not reported dead in the official paperwork. This was part of their kickback. And so anytime that you have these devastations, they underreport the casualties by far. And they typically happen in places where people are receiving quite a lot of government assistance, if you look back over where these things happen. So the new Madrid Fault line, if you look at the areas that it runs through, it's a great deal of geographical location of people who receive government assistance.
It absolutely is.
So if they underreport the casualties by, say, 90%, which is kind of how they do it on your planet at this point, 90% of the government resources that were going to people will now go to kickbacks for the corrupt people and what they choose to do.
It's interesting you say that, because within the past several months, our president, Trump, the one known as Trump, has the department, I forget what DOGE, DOGE stands for, but that was one of the very first things that they were reporting, is all the people who were receiving Social Security payments who had been dead forever, and you have this person who's
Yes.
125 and still receiving benefits.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
because they're already dead.
exactly.
How can anybody report them dead?
Yeah, yeah.
No one would think to, because they're already gone. So
No.
these areas of devastation, if people really pay attention, they almost always occur where it's very low income and high population.
It really
If
is.
if it were our people, we would not live near the new Madrid Fault line.
And that's what's such a shame, is like Tennessee is so beautiful, having driven through there so many times.
Yes.
And no, absolutely not. I know a lot of people who live in that area, and there's no way I would
Yes.
ever relocate there. Mm.
Yes. Is there more that you would like to ask?
With the new Madrid, not necessarily. That helped explain quite a bit. My mind goes to having lived in a very interesting part of California about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and all of the pumping stations, the oil boring. I remember being there, and I think it was called Oildale, was the area where all of these small drilling stations, and again, I'm not getting the right word.
We
Or
understand what you mean.
perfect, thank you. And all I could think of is the crust of the earth there, not so far from the San Andreas Fault on the west coast, was the crust of the earth was being perforated. So how could that even withstand some of the lighter earthquakes or vibrations that might occur there? There seems so many ways that they can decrease the structure of our planet.
Yes. And you're
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Yes. There are better ways to access those resources. And if the light is able to move forward on your planet, you will start using that technology
Beautiful.
so that you are working harmoniously with your planet. But because the people who are leading the charge for many different directions, for many different reasons, but they are a part of that darkness, a part of that greed. They work together upon your planet. So, for instance, the oil places that you are speaking of, they, as long as it is earning the money they would like, it will be fine. But when they have tired of getting the oil there, they will use those perforations and direct energy toward them to make a more powerful earthquake. So they use what they are doing to greedily get money, but also set the stage for whatever those next coming attractions are that they have set up for humanity. It's quite ingenious in most cases.
Yeah.
And it can only happen if people are not willing to find out what's really happening.
Yes.
Hence, all of the immediate gratification and lack of personal responsibility upon your planet.
So my brain does not move as fast as yours. And so I'm doing something called writing to make notes so I can take a look, so I don't
Yes.
forget things and stay focused. Where I go is obviously there are many areas that the dark side could take advantage of. But if we flip it around as far as what we might be able to do, if we're working with Mother Earth, if we're working with the PowerPoints, the ley lines, how can we, if we are so inclined, offset perhaps, or help heal our planet?
Well, the first suggestion is simply to begin researching things before you spend your money on them. Because upon your planet at this time, that is the most powerful way. First step that everybody can take is simply not to purchase what these people are selling. So you're not contributing to that greed. If the money dries up, so does that project. So we think about, as you were speaking about the electric vehicles or the 15-minute cities. If people don't go live in those cities, and if people don't choose to buy an electric car at the moment, those businesses would end up going out. They would have to respond to what the people of your planet are purchasing, because money does seem to be what feeds those machines.
Mhm.
From there, then it goes to power and horrors that are performed upon your own people. It's really something to behold. A race that would do to themselves what you all do to one another is so far removed from where we are, we can't quite comprehend what moves people to do the things they do. But to answer that question, that's the first thing that your people upon your planet could do, is simply do the real research, find out what is really happening with products, and choose consciously whether you want to contribute to that movement or not. When you buy a product, you are contributing to a movement of that particular niche. And so that's the first thing people can do. It will all boil down to people taking personal responsibility of understanding the whole big picture, not just the pretty parts, but the whole picture, so that they can consciously step forward or step back, communicate with other people their findings and learn from others. But ultimately, if the money dries up to those things upon your planet, they will likely just go away. And so if they don't have their products being purchased, they're not bringing in that kind of money that they used to. They can't afford to do the weather manipulation and all of this is incredibly expensive. So the pharmaceutical companies upon your planet are big players in a lot of these things that are being talked about. And if you look at the medications that people upon your planet are on, many medications, one, are not necessary, but two, cause other diseases that mean you need more medication. So they have people spending all of this money just in the medical system alone, because they are fear mongering and people are afraid to look to Mother Nature. They are afraid to learn from holistic people. And so these drug companies are a big part of what is gathering the funding for this manipulation of your planet. You have other industries as well, but look for industries that are big, like the pharmaceutical or medical, that combination. Look at some of those industries and see how they are bringing about all of the massive income they are getting, because those are the incomes that are then being used to bastardize your planet. Did that answer your question?
It did. Yes, thank you. And I would add to that big food. It's like big food, pharma, and medicine. The trifecta of
Yes.
trying to take out humanity.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And fleece every penny they can from them on the way out.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
People upon your planet have become very consumer like. They are consumed by being consumers. And that is fairly new for your planet, to the extreme that it has become. And so that would be another thing, is to look at, if you have loads of very expensive things in your home, meaning technology, things like that, is it helping you in any way? What are the downsides to that? What is the Wi-Fi, the 5G Wi-Fi, or we don't believe the 5G, but
Yeah.
the Wi-Fi that's moving around your house, how is that affecting you? Because it has an effect on the human body.
Yes, it does.
How is it affecting Mother Earth to have all of these frequencies swirling around? How are these different things affecting you, and how much money are you spending on things rather than becoming more connected with your loved ones or yourself? You may spend fortunes on TVs and gadgets and things, but then perhaps family togetherness is too expensive. Or a life coach, perhaps a good coach, is too expensive. But you've got all of these things outside of yourself. On our planet, we have very few things, but we want for nothing. The focus is within ourselves and within the ones we love, and we gain our stimulation and interaction from one another. And there is very high level technology where we are, but it's not used for nefarious reasons. It's not used for manipulation. It's just so very different, but we are not a 3D planet.
The explosion in consumerism and in this technology and in all of the distractions is so disturbing. And the fact that we are a very throwaway society
Yes.
in many regards. And that has been what, maybe the past 40 years,
Yes.
30, probably 30, 40 years. In the 80s, I think, is when things really began
Yes.
shifting. Yes. Yeah.
Retail therapy has become quite the addiction upon your planet.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. So we have maybe 5-10 minutes before we'll need to bring truth back. Based on the time we're seeking to stay close to 2 hours.
Yes.
Would there be time to talk a little bit about our sun and perhaps some of the other aspects of our solar system, or even heard about the binary star Algol that had an influence in what's been happening? How is all of this happening to assist us with ascension, as well as just even the importance of daily sun exposure? And it's not something to be feared, it's something to be embraced.
Yes. Yes. I believe that's why I was pulled in, was specifically for this topic.
Yes.
So all of this that is happening with the solar activity, the planetary alignments, all of the astrology, I believe you call it.
Yes.
All of this has actually been divined by the creator, who, by the way, is creator of all universes and all galaxies and far beyond just yours. And it is an attempt to bring these aspects of creator, meaning earth, humanity, everything upon the earth, within the earth, around the earth, your whole system. It is gearing things up. It is getting the energy moving. It is getting the particles, cells, waves, etc., moving, whether it's in a person, an animal, the heavens, whatever it is. Everything is speeding up and coming to an intensity that is forcing the frequency to rise. So this can be very uncomfortable if you think the one of my partners here from my area is showing me popcorn on the stove.
Yes. Yes.
The solar activity, the astrology, everything that is coming at you all is the popcorn heating up in the pan so that it can transform into this beautiful, one of a kind expression of creation. That is what humanity, your planet, your galaxy, your universe is doing currently. And so it can be very intensive, and it does push to the forefront what is the overpowering identity. In other words, humanity tends to have some dark and some light because you are from a place of duality.
Mhm.
So this intensity is pushing forward, which is the dominant side of someone. And so it's pushing people to be either their very best or their very worst. And it's because they control the switch. If you think of train tracks, the reason one side or the other is dominant is because they are choosing light or they are choosing dark more of the time, which creates a pathway for that energy to move through. And so that is the energy that is intensified, amplified, and shown more clearly. So during this time, it is more important than ever, if someone is consciously aware, it would behoove them to focus or channel the energy to beautiful things, funny things, joyful things, things they're grateful for, people they love, whether they're in their own world or not. Choose those things if you are looking on your computers or watching your entertainment devices, if you're reading things. You are choosing one path or the other. There is no more middle of the road. That's what this is doing. And so the sun and the solar flares, the solar activity, the solar winds, it's as if you have been put into a microwave.
Yes, it feels that way sometimes.
Because it's radiation.
Yes.
It is, you have been put into a cosmic microwave. And whichever is the ruling side of you, meaning whichever side you feed the most to, that is what will pop. So it's incredibly important to be very clear on which direction you choose to go. And consistency of choice is what matters. It's not being airy fairy, as some say, and floating away from reality and thinking that that's positive, because that's not. That's escapism. That's not facing things from a positive standpoint, from a strong standpoint. It's the consistent choices all day, every day that you make. Do you choose dark? Do you choose light? You're sitting around with nothing to do. Do you think about the people you're aggravated at, or do you think about the people that made you laugh last?
Yeah.
So it's really up to everyone to shift that focus as quickly as possible.
It's interesting that the last time that we did channeling, there was this topic came up, and truth's choices as far as leisurely viewing things, right? Restricting yourself to perhaps hazel. And that gave me the opportunity to step back and realize I've been allowing some of the ambiguous aspects when I was seeking entertainment. So stepping back, and I'm still working with that, but being more conscious of, no, I'm now going to choose a lot of hazel, a lot of another show that's very light. But
Yes.
the choices, at least at the moment, as we're refining, they are becoming very, very narrow.
More and more so all the time.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. And again, going back to, we are in a race for which side is going to win on this planet.
Yes.
And and to me, it's like, how selfish of me, how lazy of me to just put that on just because I prefer that from the past, but just the 30 minutes of watching that, I need to vote the other direction. So just
Yes.
each of us, and having these channeling sessions have me turn around and look at myself. It's like, yeah, I need to tighten up on that.
It is our understanding that she lives a very different life than most people on this planet.
She
We've
truly
not
does.
witnessed her much, so we don't know much, but we do know that we are able to come through her, and that means that
Yes.
her frequency must be at a fairly high level, or we
Yes.
wouldn't have been able to communicate with you this way. So,
Yes.
but we understand that she lives very differently than most people.
She truly does. Yes. She is very rare. Very, very rare. Yeah.
Is there anything else that I may answer for you?
I believe, if we could take just one more moment with and she has an alarm that will go off on her phone, which is also to her right. So hopefully short. The sun, we are, I'll say the collective we, because many of us know it's not true, are taught to fear sun exposure.
Yes, I'm sorry that I missed that. I forgot you had asked about that. Yes, that is one of the main gifts that were given to you by the Creator, is the sun. It is beneficial for your physical and mental well-being. And this is why it has been turned into something that should be avoided, should be feared. Most things that are turned into things that the masses should fear, if people do their research, they will find they're actually things that hold great benefits. And that's why they don't want you to connect with these things. The sun is just a massive source of life energy for you all.
Yeah. Yeah.
For your whole galaxy. Humanity was designed to need sunlight. You are very similar to your plants. You are not different, not all that different than your plants on that planet. And the majority of those need sunlight to function. Your cells need sunlight, every aspect of your body. Your brain needs that light. It brings you tremendous vitality. Again, people often go to extremes on your planet.
Yes.
And just as anything else, extremes consistently are not healthy. But we would encourage people to look at what it is they say is so negative about the sun and see when did they start saying that, and then look prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, did you all have a high incident of skin cancer before there was fear surrounding the sun? Or
Not
did
at
that
all.
come after it was propaganda being fed to the public that the sun is dangerous? You need these chemical things upon your skin, which is your largest organ. You might as well put those chemicals on your liver or your pancreas. You wouldn't do that. And so what has occurred since they discovered that the sun was so dangerous after eons of time?
Mm-hmm.
And what increase came or decrease, right? Your skin cancer should have decreased.
Yeah.
But we venture to say that it has increased.
Yes, it has.
Because cancer is big business.
Mm-hmm.
And unhealthy people are big business. And the sun brings a tremendous amount of healing with it. Vitamin D is not toxic. You have to take an awful lot of vitamin D as a human being for it to be toxic. It all comes down to humanity needing to know how to do their own research, because there is so much corruption on your planet. You cannot simply take somebody's word for something, no matter who they are, because you don't know where, even if their agenda is pure, if they learned it from somebody who was distributing propaganda, their information is still contaminated.
Yes.
So they may be very trustworthy, but who they learned from, or who that person learned from, or how many generations back was spewing propaganda or misinformation. And now it's being stated as fact, and people are just listening because they don't do their own research. Does this answer your question?
It really does. Thank you.
Good.
it felt important to be able to let people know the sun is really, really good
The
for us.
sun is imperative for humanity. If it weren't something that you
Yeah.
needed, you would be one of the societies that lives within your planet. There are many planets that have civilizations within them. They just don't live on the surface of the planet because what their systems need is not there. So they're within the planet because that's what their systems need. You would not live upon the surface of your planet if the sun was not beneficial to you.
Thank you for that.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Creator doesn't do things like that. So if one believes in God, they can't possibly believe the sun is harmful for you as a human, or they are a hypocrite.
It's that
There
simple.
wouldn't be something so massive that is such a present upon your earth that keeps everything alive. Without the sun, nothing lives. Why would your creator put something that harmful in your existence day in and day out if it weren't, if it were harmful? That fits somebody else's agenda to have you believe that. But again, people don't see the big picture. They don't ask questions. And the bottom line is, where did creator put it? How big a part of your life is it?
Yeah.
Is it still in the state that creator brought about? Or has it been contaminated and twisted by man? Who do you believe? Do you believe man? Do you believe creator? It's just that simple.
Thank you. That tied all of this in, going
Wonderful.
back to stepping back and thinking, which is what the one known as Merlin was sharing. And now you're tying it back in together. Thank you.
Is it my time to leave now?
I believe it probably is. I'd love to keep talking with you, but I want to make sure that truth is able to come back in comfortably.
And
And it
if
was,
we were able to be here this time, perhaps we will be here another time.
that would be lovely. And again, you said it was Mahlk would be how
Yes.
we would. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you who came.
It was truly our pleasure. It was very exciting to communicate with humanity. We hope that this is helpful to them. And we
I
very much appreciate what you two are doing.
thank you so much. And you were able to experience a dog. At least you could hear the dog. Maybe next time they'll come up and you can touch them.
I will now have stories to tell my people
Yes,
about
you will.
what you have on your planet. Yes. That was quite the experience.
I saw that. Oh,
We are very grateful to you for this opportunity, and we hope to see you again soon.
thank you as well.
Woo. Hi.
Hi,
Well then,
welcome back.
that last one was different when it exited.
Go on.
Just almost felt like it stepped out of my back, like where my spine is.
Oh, fascinating.
It kind of like twitched a little bit.
Well, it took Mahlk, Mahlk, a bit of time to get acclimated to your body. A star being, apparently it's going to be 2,000 to 3,000 years from now before we discover
Wow.
them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, they
And
were unique. I mean, I saw
oh,
the other ones that were there.
oh,
There were a few others there. Yeah, they were different.
apparently like a team of.
Blue. They were blue. That I
I
know.
wondered.
They were
I
blue.
wondered. Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
there were like 5 of them, I believe, that had
Yeah, because there were
a team
4
of
where I
5.
was,
Okay,
but that
and
one was speaking.
oh my goodness, and Flynn, both when Merlin came through as well as when the one known as Mahlk came through. Oh my goodness, there was a bit of concern about Flynn because the neighbors must be walking, and so Flynn was vocal. So
Okay.
we had a conversation about Flynn, and you are perfectly safe, well protected, and
So that surprised Merlin?
not Merlin. He heard the
Oh, gotcha.
barking, wanted to make sure everything was okay there, and like, yeah, that he's just, someone's probably walking by. But the one known as Mahlk was very concerned and like, all right,
Oh,
here's
I'll
what it
have to watch
is.
that part when I'm editing.
It was really fun, and um, again, at the end, we were hoping that maybe one of your 2 pups would be close so that they could have the
Oh,
physical sensation. But it was like, wow, do I have some stories to tell about the creatures that are on your planet?
that's really, I'll have to watch that part. Yeah, because
It
I didn't
was
know anything
fun.
about that where I was.
Yeah, it was
So
really cool. Yeah.